Most genuinely wealthy people, you'll never know they're rich. Not until it's too late to notice. Over the next 13 minutes, I'll show you 7 signs that reveal genuinely wealthy people and why they're the exact opposite of what movies and social media show you. We're taught that wealth looks like flashy cars, logo-covered clothing, loud parties, and a life that photographs well. But research on how wealthy people actually spend, most notably the study behind The Millionaire Next Door, found something almost nobody expects. Many of the people who look the richest are actually the least wealthy on paper. They spend most of their income just maintaining the appearance. Meanwhile, the people who actually hold the capital, the ones with real, growing net worth, usually blend into the background completely. There's even a term for the difference: income statement affluence, looking rich because you earn a lot and spend it, versus balance sheet affluence, actually being rich because what you keep outweighs what you show. Real money moves quietly. Here are the 7 signs that tell the two apart. Sign 1. They almost never talk about money. Not out of modesty, out of strategy. Talking about money creates expectations, envy, and exposure. The moment people know your numbers, 3 things tend to happen. They start comparing themselves to you, they start asking you for things, and they start negotiating with you differently, whether that's a business deal, a favor, or even a relationship. People who actually manage real capital learn this early, often the hard way, so they avoid the specifics entirely. You won't learn their salary, their portfolio, or their net worth, even if you ask directly. Picture 2 people at the same dinner table. One talks about a recent investment win in detail, the numbers, the timing, the returns. The other changes the subject within seconds, almost reflexively. The second person isn't being cold. They've simply learned that silence protects leverage, and leverage, quietly kept, compounds just like money does. Sign 2. Quality over logos. Not bold logos, but simple, well-made basics that last for years, sometimes decades. There's an idea from economics called conspicuous consumption, spending money specifically so other people notice you spent it. A logo is the purest form of that. It's a visual receipt worn in public, proving you paid a premium. Quiet wealth works on the opposite logic. If you already know what something costs, and you're not worried about anyone else knowing, you don't need the label to say it for you. There's also a colder, more practical math behind it. A quality, unbranded piece might cost more up front, but it's worn hundreds of times over 10 years. The actual cost per wear ends up lower than a trend piece bought new every season. Fast fashion and logo-driven pieces are, in a sense, expensive precisely because they're designed to be replaced. The wardrobe of someone building real wealth tends to look almost boring at first glance, until you notice nothing in it needs replacing anytime soon. Sign 3. A practical car, not a statement. Real capital often drives something modest and reliable. 5, sometimes 10 years old, fully paid off. The reason comes down to one of the most consistent findings in personal finance. Cars are one of the fastest depreciating things most people ever buy, and financing a new one on lease is one of the quietest ways a household bleeds money without ever seeing a single dramatic loss. It doesn't look like a mistake, it looks like a monthly payment. A new leased car is a status expense everyone around you can see, except your bank account, which quietly gets smaller every single month, for years, in exchange for something that's worth less the moment you drive it away. People with real capital tend to treat a car exactly for what it is, transportation, and redirect the difference into things that grow instead of things that shrink. It's rarely a dramatic decision. It's just one that gets made, quietly, year after year. Sign 4. A house priced below what they could afford. Studies on millionaire behavior consistently show a pattern that surprises most people. Many of them live in homes they could easily afford to upgrade 2 or 3 times over, but they choose not to. There's a term for the opposite of this, house poor, when someone's home eats such a large share of their income that there's almost nothing left to invest, save, or grow. It's one of the most common, least talked about ways a high income quietly fails to turn into real wealth. People who build lasting capital tend to flip that equation. A smaller mortgage means smaller fixed costs, which means more of every paycheck is actually free to work for them. In the market, in a business, in anything that compounds over time. From the outside, their home might look completely unremarkable for their income level. From the inside, that gap between what they earn and what their house costs is exactly where their wealth is quietly being built. Sign 5. Big purchases are paid in full. Everything you can see from the outside, the furniture, the electronics, the everyday things, is paid off completely. Debt only exists where it's invisible. A mortgage, a business loan, something that's expected to grow in value or generate more than it costs, never the lifestyle itself. There's a useful distinction in personal finance between what's sometimes called good debt and bad debt. Good debt buys something that can pay you back, a home that appreciates, an education that raises your income, a business that generates revenue. Bad debt buys something that's already losing value the moment you own it, financed anyway just to have it sooner. People with real capital tend to be almost strict about that line. If it doesn't grow, it doesn't get financed. It gets saved for and paid for once in full. It's a small rule, repeated for years, that quietly keeps a household's net worth moving in one direction instead of two. Sign 6. Their kids don't know the exact number. Many genuinely wealthy parents intentionally keep their children in the dark about the family's actual net worth, sometimes well into adulthood. The reasoning comes from something researchers sometimes describe informally as entitlement risk, the idea that knowing there's a large financial safety net in specific numbers can quietly change how hard someone is willing to work for their own version of it. So instead of a number, these families tend to pass down something less visible. Habits, how to save before you spend, how to negotiate, how to sit with a want for a while before acting on it. It's not secrecy for its own sake. It's a bet that character and discipline transfer better than a balance sheet does. The children usually find out eventually, often much later than you'd expect. And by then, the habits are already the inheritance that actually matters. The number itself is almost secondary. Sign 7. They think in decades, not trends. While others chase whatever stock, coin, or opportunity is trending this month, quiet money tends to move on a much slower clock, years, often decades, without much drama along the way. This connects to one of the oldest, most repeated ideas in investing. Time in the market consistently outperforms timing the market. Compound growth doesn't reward the person who reacts fastest to news. It rewards the person who simply doesn't interrupt it. That kind of patience is almost invisible from the outside. There's no dramatic before and after, no viral story, nothing that photographs well for social media. It just looks like the same modest choices, repeated year after year, until one day the gap between someone who chased every trend and someone who quietly stayed the course becomes impossible to ignore. By then, it doesn't look like luck anymore. It looks exactly like what it always was: patience, compounding quietly out of sight. If you recognized someone in your life in these 7 signs, that's probably not a coincidence. Quiet wealth isn't an accident, and it isn't luck. It's a pattern of small, repeated, almost boring decisions that most people never notice because they're not designed to be noticed. And if a couple of these signs hit a little close to home for you personally, maybe it's worth asking which of your own habits are working for you and which ones are just working to be seen. Those aren't always the same thing. Subscribe if you want to keep understanding how people who build wealth quietly actually think, without the hype and without the performance. There's a lot more of this pattern to uncover, and we're just getting started.